Hello everybody, welcome to me, Fit and Lean. If you're new, please hit that like and subscribe button. Well folks, I just got called ugly again by another person online, so I forgive them. Remember folks, jealousy is a sin. That's what I say to all those people. Jealousy is a sin. So don't be jelly. Don't be jelly. Unless you're a donut, then I'll eat you. All right, folks, so we're talking about today. So I was doing my Bible study today, and something dawned on me, not the liquid kind, something dawned on me that it demonstrated that it's very important to feed your spirit and not your flesh. And when it comes to weight loss and dieting, and a lot of people struggle with it because we have a tendency to want to feed our flesh, and it takes the place of our relationship with God, and so we're feeding our flesh and not our spirit. So if you feed the spirit, you'll find that you will be less hungry in the flesh, and you can eat, and it's not like something you're focused on. You're not focused on your bodily needs. You know, people. What do people want in the flesh? They want money, power. Food, in some cases, sex, and those things are just of the flesh. And so if you're feeding your spirit instead of your flesh, those things will actually dissolve and dissipate, and your desire for food will go down. So feeding your spirit is very important. So every day, like, I'm getting into the Word, and I'm trying to get more into Bible study and reading my Bible, because this is very important for me, and especially, and I noticed that I'm doing my Bible study program. I put it away for 5 years when I came back to my Bible study program, and I'm back in that. So every day I start, like every day I have my breakfast, and then I go straight into Bible study. So I'm having really, it's helping me with my cravings and my need for food, and actually realize, I do overeat, but not in the sense that I'm not going to fast food every day. I'm not drinking Cokes every day. I'm not doing that, but it's the little bitty things, snacking here and there. That's why it's very frustrating, because as a fat person, people assume that I must be eating constantly every day and eating cakes and pies and stuff. Now, I was doing that in Christmas, but I'm not doing that now. And people assume, that's not how I normally eat. So people must assume that I'm eating constantly or gorging on food to be this heavy, and that's just not the truth. That's why a lot of fat people are frustrated, because a lot of people don't eat that way. But it's just a little bitty extra stuff that you do. So if you're overindulged, like if you have a little bit too much at one time, or all it takes, folks, what it takes to put on 15 pounds a year? If you ate one extra cookie a day, like if your diet were perfect in every possible way, but you had a cookie, then you put on 15 pounds a year. That is how easy it is to put on weight, and it doesn't matter how young you are. Or old you are, it's very easy to gain weight over the course, and a lot of people have been thin, and then something happens, like they have an injury or they can't exercise the way they normally do, and bam, they gain 10 pounds, and they're like, well, what's happening? I'm not gorging on food. I'm not one of those disgusting fat pigs. But yeah, see, that's why the judgment is not fair, because it's these little bitty things that make you fat. And so anyway, when we feed our spirit and not our flesh, that allows us to realign ourselves with the Word. And so one of the fruits of the Spirit, folks, is self-control. Okay? That's one of the fruits of the Spirit. And I'm finding that I'm developing that, because years ago, like for example, if I try to book a venue and they don't want me, I would call and harass them on the phone and say, how dare, no, I wouldn't say that. I was like, oh, please. But now I don't grovel anymore. I was like, oh, forget that. I'll just move on to somebody else. And so that's how it works, folks, when you feed the fruits of the Spirit are part of letting go of your flesh and feeding your spirit. Fruits of the Spirit, fruits of the believer in Christ Jesus. So if you all know, there's a tendency people are very mean online. So I got called ugly again, not directly, but in a very odd way, because I left a comment on some Pakistani video saying, all I said was, diversity works better when people stay in their own countries, nothing offensive. And then somebody just jumped on immediately, attacking the way I look. And I didn't even mention looks, and nothing to do with how I look. But this is the problem, folks. Like, if you're itty bitty, even a slice bit overweight, the judgment against overweight people has never been stronger. And I am not for fat acceptance. I understand that. But we've never been more judgmental as a society. I mean, years ago, when people weren't as fat and obesity was much rarer, people are actually more accepting of a little junk in the trunk, or you could be like 10, 15 pounds. You wouldn't be harassed for that. But today, ironically, as we've been fatter than ever, people are very, very critical of anything overweight. You're ugly, you're a pig, you're a glutton, you're useless, you're all sorts of things. And this is not beneficial to people that are trying to lose weight if you're struggling. So I just want to encourage each and every one of you, forgive the people that insult you. And that's why I'm praying for Carrie Underwood. At first I was disappointed because I wasn't picked to sing at Donald Trump's inauguration, because I thought I'd be a better choice, because I've written my own songs for Trump, and I don't think she writes her own songs. And she tends to caterwaul, but I think, well, Carrie Underwood needs our prayers because she is under a tremendous attack. And quite frankly, folks, I'm glad I'm not singing at Trump's inauguration, because I don't need death threats against me. I have enough to contend with. So anyway, that's all I say for y'all. Please, folks, go to that website, hit that like and subscribe button down below. And remember, folks, say a prayer for someone special today. Bye-bye.